This video is over Lesson 85, Surface Area of Cylinders and Prisms, and it is for my pre-algebra classes. So, ladies and gentlemen, surface area of cylinders and prisms has a fairly simple formula. S here stands for surface area, so let's label that. This is surface area. And surface area equals 2b plus L. Now remember, in formulas, when we see capital letters, this usually tells us that these are things that we're going to have to calculate. So when you see capital B here, what you're going to have to calculate is the area of the base. So if it's a cylinder, the base will be a circle. If it's a prism, the base will be some sort of polygon. And then finally, capital L here, capital L stands for the lateral surface area, which lateral surface area, capital L, can be calculated by doing pH, where capital P here is the perimeter of the base, and H is the height of the cylinder or prism. It's a C, not an S for cylinder. There we go. Cylinder slash prism. I don't know what it is with me and S's. I'm putting them in some places and taking them out of others. All right, prism, there we go. Height of the cylinder or prism. So ladies and gentlemen, technically we could take these two formulas and put them together. So what I have here is a logical statement where we have one formula, we have another formula, and then three dots in a triangle about the size of a lowercase letter stands for therefore. So if this is true and that's true, therefore it must be true that we could replace L with what it's equal to. So S would equal 2B plus, now instead of L, I'm going to have pH. So technically that would be another formula for the surface area of a cylinder or a prism by putting those two formulas together. Now I'm not going to do that here in the notes. However, I would be perfectly okay with you doing it yourself on the homework if you feel up to it. So that is an option, but it's just not one that I'm going to take the time on here on the notes. So back to the notes. Right here I have a triangular prism. So for my triangular prism, I need to calculate capital B and capital L in order to calculate surface area. So first of all, capital B is going to be the area of the base. Now the base here is a triangle. This is a triangular prism, so we're going to have to find the area of a triangle. So triangles are 1/2 BH. Now that's lowercase b, meaning the base of the triangle, and then that h would not be this one. That h would actually be the height of the triangle, not the prism. So the trouble here, though, is in order to find base and height, I need to identify a right angle. But no right angles are marked here. However, if we consider that we know that this side is 12 and that side is 13, and if this is 5, that means that this is 5. We have a 5, 12, 13 triangle. So the question that I have in my mind is, does this form a right angle? Is this a right triangle? And the way to check that would actually be to use our Pythagorean theorem. So the two smaller sides would have to be the bases, and then the biggest side would have to be the height, or excuse me, the two smaller side would have to be the legs, excuse me, and the longer side would have to be the hypotenuse. So let's check it out. 5 squared plus 12 squared needs to equal 13 squared. Well, 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144, and 13 squared is 169. So 25 plus 144 is 169. So sure enough, this is a right triangle. So we're going to make a little note about what we did here. So the Pythagorean theorem, and we're going to abbreviate theorem, THM, is true, so it's a right triangle. And since it is a right triangle, that means the two legs make the right angle. So that means 5 and 12, 5 centimeters and 12 centimeters, are my two legs. So one of them will be the base and the other will be the height. So again, area is 1/2 times base. Well, let's go ahead and make the 12 centimeters the base, times 5 centimeters can be the height. Well, half of 12 is 6, times 5 is 30. So 30 square centimeters is the area of my base. Now I need the lateral surface area. So for the lateral surface area, this is going to be the perimeter times the height of the prism. So the perimeter of the base is just, well, for a triangle, just add up the three sides. Now, in order to follow the order of operations, though, I need to make sure that I do that addition, adding everything up to find the perimeter, before we multiply by the height. So I'm going to need parentheses around that perimeter to make sure that order of operations is followed. So I'm going to have my 5 centimeters plus my 12 centimeters plus my 13 centimeters, and all that is the perimeter. Then times the height of the prism. Well, the prism is 20 centimeters in height. And now we simplify. So 12 plus 13 is actually 25, plus 5 is 30. So this actually is 30 centimeters times 20 centimeters, which really is just like 3 times 2 with an extra 2 zeros. So that's 600 square centimeters. So my base, if we grab a highlighter, I don't really care what color you use. Let's save our yellow and our orange for later. So something other than yellow and orange. So my base here is 30 square centimeters. Just do an underline there. That's all we need. And then my lateral surface area is the 600 square centimeters. So now to find the surface area, we're going to put things together. So surface area equals 2 times capital B, so that's my 30 square centimeters, plus L, which is just 600 square centimeters. So 2 times 30 is 60, plus 600 is 660 square centimeters. Moving on to my cylinder now. The base here is going to be a circle. So when it comes to a circle, the base is pi r squared. And you all know the terrible math joke, pi r not square, pi r round. Ha ha, ha ha. Yep, I know. All right, anyways. So pi r squared. Pi, in order to be useful, needs to be rounded off because it's an irrational number. And since it's rounded, we'll say is approximately equal to, and we usually use 3.14. R here, well, 12 inches goes all the way across. That's a diameter. So to find radius, we'd cut that in half. So 6 inches, that's my radius, and squared. And we need the parentheses, so we actually are squaring the entire radius, not just its units, not just its number, but the entire radius. So now follow the order of operations to simplify this. 3.14, and then we do the exponent first. So that'd be 36 square centimeters. And then finally multiply those together, and we get 113.04 square inches. So that's my base. So I'm going to choose my blue like I did up here. So my capital B is approximately equal to 113.04 square inches. All right, now let's go ahead and find the lateral surface area. So the lateral surface area here is going to be L equals PH. Now in this case, since it's a circle, it's technically CH, circumference times height, because the circumference is the perimeter of a circle. So circumference here, I'm going to say that this is approximately equal to, I'm going to put parentheses around that perimeter, around that circumference, just to identify it as the circumference, the perimeter. So pi d is circumference. Well, that's convenient because there's my d, 12 inches. So pi again is approximately 3.14. D is 12 inches. And then times the height of the prism, which is 24 inches. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is really all multiplication. So really the parentheses aren't needed other than to identify this part of it as the perimeter or the circumference. So since it's all multiplication, let's just do it all the way across. So 3.14 times 12 times 24, if you use your calculator to help you out with that, comes out as 904.32 square inches. And then I'm going to grab my purple. I recommend you grab whatever color that was you did for lateral surface area. That's my lateral surface area, and again, it's approximately equal. And so when it comes time for surface area, S equals 2b plus L. Since both b and L are approximately equal to their results, that means that surface area will also be approximately equal to. So 2 times b being 113.04 square inches, plus L being 904.32 square inches. Now I would recommend just throwing that in a calculator. If you throw it in that order, your calculator will follow the order of operations for you. And so if we do that all, we end up with 1,130.4 square inches. 1,130.4 square inches. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the basics of what you're going to be doing, setting it up like this. Now again, if you choose to use a combined formula, yours will look slightly different, but it'll still be along the same track. Now, with that being said, it is possible for specifically for cylinders or a specific type of cylinder to get a more direct formula. And so if we use some logic here, we should be able to find an exact formula specifically for a cylinder. And so it's going to start with this general formula, so S equals 2b plus L. And now for a cylinder, we know that the base of a cylinder is a circle, so its area is pi r squared. Its lateral surface area we know is perimeter times height, which in the case of a circle is really circumference times height. So if we put those together, this is 2b, but b is pi r squared. And then plus L, but L is ch. So there's a more specific formula. However, we can take this one step further, because now if we take these results here and we bring them over here, we have our 2 pi r squared plus ch. Now, since this is in terms of r, I would actually write circumference in terms of r as well, and that way we've got some consistency there. So circumference is 2 pi r. So then surface area will be 2 pi r squared, that's this part, and then over here we'll have plus 2 pi r h. So you could memorize that and use that for a cylinder. There are some similarities here. They both have 2 pi, but this has r squared, whereas this has rh. So it actually might not be too bad to memorize that. don't have to. You can just memorize this for the general formula and that for lateral surface area in general. But this works nicely for a cylinder. And we're actually going to do our cylinder one more time using this specific formula. So surface area would be approximately equal to 2 times pi, which is going to be approximated at 3.14, r squared. And remember that our radius was 6 inches, plus 2 times pi, 3.14, and then times my radius, which is 6 inches, and then times my height. And the height here was 24 inches. So now you can literally plug that into your calculator and have that solve it all out for you, and you'll end up with that same answer that we ended up with. Oops, 3 then a 0, sorry. Same answer that we ended up with before, 1,130.4 square inches. That would be an acceptable alternative specifically for a cylinder. And you can do this with prisms. The only trouble with prisms is that depending on the base of your prism, it can change what your specific formula would be. The specific formula for a triangular prism would not be the same as for a cube. It would not be the same as for a rectangular prism. Actually, speaking of rectangular prisms, we are going to find a specific formula real quick here for a rectangular prism. But before we do that, remember I told you to hold off on using yellow. I want you to grab your yellow real quick here, and I want you to highlight cylinder there and highlight this final formula there. So that is a specific formula to cylinders. So again, you could use the general formula or the specific formula for cylinders. All right, so onto the back. Onto the back here, I just have a generic rectangular prism here. It has a length, has a width, has a height. We don't know what it is, don't really care what it is. Okay. We know that in general, surface area equals 2b plus L. However, for a rectangular prism, its base is a rectangle, which means its base, the area of its base, is LW. So therefore, the surface area is going to be 2b, which b now is LW, plus L, which we already know is perimeter times height. So now if we take this result and we bring it down there, so surface area equals 2LW plus PH. While for a rectangle, its perimeter is 2 lengths plus its 2 widths. So therefore, S must equal 2LW plus perimeter, which is 2L plus 2W times the height. And we can simplify this up a little bit more by distributing the H into this quantity inside those parentheses. And if we do that, so 2LW is not inside the parentheses, so it's not going to be multiplied with H. However, 2L and 2W will be multiplied with H. So I'll get a 2LH plus a 2WH. And ladies and gentlemen, if you flip back to some earlier lessons, you'll actually discover that we've already talked about this specific formula for surface area of a rectangular prism. However, we derived it differently then, but this just goes to show that we can derive these formulas often in many different ways. So this is a specific formula to a rectangular prism. So grab your orange, please. So rectangular prisms, specifically you can use that formula there instead of having to do B all by itself and then H all by itself, or excuse me, L all by itself and then put them together. This will take you straight to your surface area. And we've done examples like that before, so go back to previous notes if you need to see those examples. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our lesson.